Welcome to In the Loop, a podcast from Plus One Robotics that spans the learning gap between warehouse automation and the technology that is driving the robotics industry. Learn from experts in industrial automation on how the supply chain is transforming as industry leaders explain their contributions to the robotics ecosystem. Listen in and stay in the loop, powered by Plus One Robotics.
Hello, everyone. This is Brent Barcy with Plus One Robotics. You are listening to the In the Loop podcast. We're here with Alex Shikany, who is the VP of Membership and Business Intelligence at A3. Alex, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We just got done with a customer experience center tour, so you got to see a little bit of the Plus One technology, and I think your hair is still blown back.
A little bit, yeah, but that's the gel.
Yeah, it's South Central Texas. It's windy today.
Yeah.
What do you think, man?
Rodeo tonight.
We're going to the rodeo. We're gonna have some fun there, but I hope you enjoyed the time. I'm glad you were able to come down from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys inviting me, and it's good to get a little Texas hospitality. You guys know how to show people around. So
yeah, I was at the A3 conference back last month in Orlando, and I think some of the things that you guys all talk about we have on our floor out there between AMRs and robots and all kinds of stuff going on. So hopefully you get to see a little bit of the tech that you guys are interested in and starting to showcase at all these different events you're doing around the country.
Absolutely. You guys are like the perfect microcosm of everything we always talk about. It's like the vision solution on top of the picking and the grasping, and AMRs in there working together with your solution. So it's really interesting, and you're definitely on the forefront of some of the major industries that we're seeing adopt automation these days. So
obviously we're warehousing, e-com, logistics, all that kind of stuff. Who else? Yeah. What are the verticals right now you're seeing on the forefront?
Well, warehousing's up there.
Yeah.
We launched an event. It's called the AMR and Logistics Conference. We had to add logistics to it because of how growing warehousing and automation is right now. But we're seeing electronics, life sciences, food and consumer goods all adopt robots at quickening rates. And I talked a little bit about agriculture. That's another kind of, no pun intended, greenfield application for robotics as well. A lot of new companies and startups in that space too.
So you walked the floor, you saw our technologies. Obviously, it's the integration between what A3 is up to and all the members that you had. We were at the Orlando conference. There was more people there than I ever remember coming from all different verticals.
700.
Was it 700? Yeah. Logistics is on fire, but I know you guys talk a lot about agriculture. What else are you seeing out there in the industry where people are starting to use the AMR technology coupled with arms and vision and all kinds of stuff? I mean, there's different things going on that.
For sure. Every industry that's established, automotive, plastics, rubber, metals, like all these industries are using the most amount of robots and technology that I've ever seen and that the industry's ever seen from a statistics standpoint.
Right.
But there's these new areas like construction, agriculture, life sciences, even electronics to some extent when you're talking about assembly, that are really exploding now. There's a lot of new opportunities. And I know you're smack dab in the middle of warehousing logistics. That market is just absolutely blowing up.
How much of this, there's a lot of reshoring coming back, right? A lot of things are coming back to this country that weren't manufactured here before. They're starting to be manufactured again, right? Mm-hmm. So I think in one of the prezos I saw that you guys did, it was 45 or so thousand robotic arms got sold last year. Mm-hmm. How many are we projecting for 23, 24? And can the OEMs meet the demand? Because I know they can only make so many robots, right? At the end of the day, the factory can only crank so many out a week.
Sure.
Is there at some point is the demand reaching what's able to get to the marketplace at this point?
Well, having visited and talked with a lot of these manufacturers of robotics, I think that they're expanding, they're kind of keeping pace with the demand in terms of investing in ways to have the capabilities to service that demand. In terms of what we expect for 23, we just did a poll in January. Optimism for this market is still really high, even despite some of the macroeconomic, hesitation, right, talk of recession, potentially things like that. People, over 80% of our members said they still expect increases anywhere between 1 and 10%. So I expect the market to grow, anywhere between probably 5 or 7% wouldn't be out of the question, but I still expect a record year in 23.
Is automotive going to keep doing, from an EV standpoint, the numbers last year were staggering. You could see a lot of that was the GMs, the Fords pivoting to that model, right? Because they have to. Mm-hmm. It's just part of the gig. Is that hockey stick going to continue with regard to the ordering that the way they've been doing in the last year and a half or so?
Historically we see 1 to 2 quarters of that, and then it starts to go cyclical again. So I wouldn't be surprised if first quarter was still a strong automotive quarter in the grand scheme, but typically it follows kind of a 2-quarter cycle. You go up 2 quarters and then you see 2 quarters of drawback. So it's just about, it has to deal a lot with their timetable, their retooling, and these new applications for EVs and supporting the EV production.
Do you think it was a big deal when general industry, non-automotive, overtook automotive robot sales? I mean, that was probably a lot of people that have been in the industry a while never thought they would see that day, right?
Right.
Is that going to continue? Is that trend? That trend's going to continue?
I expect it to, and it'll wax and wane a little bit depending on the volumes that automotive companies need to order for these projects, right? Because they're still a very mature segment. They know robotics very well, and they can pull the trigger on big numbers of robot orders. So while we may see it dip and swing, the general growth over time for non-automotive orders has steadily been stepping up over time, and I anticipate that is going to continue.
What's going to happen there's only so many robotic integrators in North America at the end of the day. There's only so much that they can fight off. I know backlog is real. It's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. How are your A3 members from an integrator standpoint? How's their backlog look? What's 23 looking like? Are they talking about 24? Because I know a lot of the end users we go into, they're really excited to get this automation journey started. And then, they find the project, they want to go after it. They bring in a couple of integrators to quote it. And it's like, yeah, we can get to it, but it's going to be in Q1 of next year. And it's like, well, wait a minute, we're in Q1 of this year.
Sure.
Are you seeing that trend still? And is that going to, is the pedal going to come off the metal a little bit there?
Tough to say if the pedal is going to come off the metal. In terms of backlogs, they're all busy. Like I just came from an integrator conference. All the integrators I talked to are booked out a ways. So demand has been high, record levels. But at the same time, these companies are working on expansion projects. So many of them are looking at adding space to do more. Many of them are looking at adding headcount to bring in more people, to expand the pipeline so that they can get through their backlog quicker. And so just like I mentioned, the manufacturers of the robots are being kind of moving with the market and investing with the market. So are these integrators in a lot of ways.
That's interesting.
You can tackle it.
Is A3? Do you guys have end users as members as well?
We do.
Okay.
Good amount.
So I think that's what needs to happen from a maturation standpoint. Is a lot of the people in the space that we're in, anyways, in the e-com, logistics, warehousing space, they really need exposure. There's a difference between a robotic integrator and a systems integrator, and the things that people can bring to the table, right?
Sure.
And so much of this is education that it can be a tough road to haul when these guys are doing the automation journey for the first time. So that's good to know. I didn't know that you guys had end users in the A3.
Yeah, some of our biggest members, platinum members like 3M.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Amazon's in there.
Okay.
AWS. So we're getting more interest from users, and part of that is just the growing community globally of automation. Users are coming. They're taking interest at levels they've never taken interest in this technology before, which is a great sign for companies like Plus One and everybody else. So yeah, the integrators are such a critical piece today of what we do, because they are that stitching between users in so many cases to the manufacturers of the technology.
Talk to me about Automate. What's on docket? I heard that you couldn't afford to bring in the head coach of the University of Michigan football team. So you got Tom Izzo coming in, which is fine. I get it.
These are erroneous. That's an erroneous claim, I have to say. No, Tom Izzo was 1A choice as a Michigan State guy. Naturally. A little rivalry across the table there. But yeah, we were actually considering a Michigan option and a Michigan State option, and the state option, just for many reasons not related to fandom, ultimately won out. But I couldn't be more excited for not only Tom Izzo, but we have the largest Automate on deck for 23 we've ever had.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, we added a brand new hall. So if you were at the show last year, we had a full 3 halls. Now we have 4 halls. So more technology than we've ever had at the show. We are already well ahead of last year in terms of registration for the show. And so we're so excited to see what's evolved in 1 year's period of time, right? The technology's changed a lot, new solutions, new companies coming in the startup realm, things like that. It's going to be an awesome week in Detroit.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We were there last year. We had a booth, and this year we've got a bigger and better booth as well. It was a very successful show for us. And I'm from Michigan, obviously, so it's always good to go back. My only complaint about it is last year and this year the Tigers are not home.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I know, right? Because a couple of the customers asked, like, "Hey, you gonna go to a game?" And I'm like, "I don't think they're playing home." But no, it's a good spot for it. It's it was in Chicago for all those years, and it came back to Detroit, which just makes sense. I mean, Detroit's where automation was born, and
it's home in a lot of ways.
It is. You got between the big three, and then some of the top integrators in the country are all within an hour and a half drive of
manufacturers,
downtown Detroit.
Robots, absolutely. Vision, like you have it all. So
yeah, are you guys going to have any? So I've gone to a couple shows lately, and I'm putting you on the spot here. But will you have any VC, any breakout sessions where they're going to be VCs there talking to people about what they're looking at or the type of technologies they're investing in?
Actually, yes, we will. So we have a startup competition that's going to go on, major feature of the show, kind of Shark Tank style pitches and everything like that, $10,000 prize. And we're working with some VC companies on that end. There might be like a lead-in panel discussion that kind of overviews some of the major areas where VC funding is going and some of the pockets of investment in the country and things. So yeah, we're actively working on that now and should have that to announce soon.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
1,200 plus members. What is the biggest, outside of labor? We all know that we're all having a tough time finding human resources right now, even in this economy. What are some of the gaps, some of the holes in the market that they're saying this is the technology we need today, or this is where we see the market should be shifting and just isn't getting there yet. It's not happening fast enough, because a lot of times with Plus One anyways, we get into pilot purgatory. A lot of people in our arena get into what we call pilot purgatory, where you go in, you get this thing installed, it's working the way everybody wanted it to, but we're not sure when it's going to roll out. So that's kind of one of the things that a lot of the end users get frustrated on, and a lot of people on our side of the table get frustrated because the speed to market isn't what we're all hoping for. Not everybody can be Amazon, right? Amazon has tens of thousands of people that are working on things day and night. Are your member companies, is there anything where they're seeing gaps where, this would be nice? This is not a want to have, but a nice to have that you're hearing in the market?
Interesting question. I would say really artificial intelligence fills that gap a little bit. It's something the customers of automation are asking about, that it's obviously out there everywhere you look. Right. If you're on LinkedIn, you're going to events. I mean, there's a million AI events. This AI pops up everywhere. Right. The definition is very broad. What is it in our context? What is the value prop? And so I think I mentioned earlier, over 70 companies now, I believe in A3 identify as artificial intelligence native companies, like companies that do that. And that was non-existent in our membership a year and a half ago, before we started our A3 AI tech community. And so when you're talking about gaps in the market, or where there's value to be had, to harvested, I would say that those technologies fit that bill quite nicely. But again, it depends what technology specifically you're talking about.
and what problem you're trying to solve.
Exactly, right. In the application. So,
No, there's a lot of... Our AI has become a very controversial term with regard to, it's a very broad definition, right? Like if some people think of lights out, I'm going to call up a Plus One, or I'm going to call up a FANUC or an ABB, and they're going to automate everything through the power of AI, and I'm going to be able to walk away and this thing's going to work. It's like, no, we still, human beings still rule. That's just the way it's going to work. Robots are, in my lifetime, you'll never see a lights out facility, because at the end of the day, packages are going to change every Easter, every Christmas, every Hanukkah, every 4th of July. It's going to be a different SKU set that's going to wreak havoc on models, and you're going to need artificial intelligence. But no, it is interesting, because we do get a lot of phone calls, and I'm sure your companies do too, with regard to, their CEO saw something on MSNBC that this can all be solved. Get them in here right now and they can solve everything. And we're like, how about you just work on just layer picking?
Crawl before you walk.
Right. I mean, you got to be born. Sometimes, I mean, you're not even crawling at this point, right? So,
well, you talked about gaps, right? That right there in and of itself is part of the challenge, is the gap. Because people who hear AI everybody hears it differently and is like, oh my gosh, I see Chat GPT and I can ask it anything and it'll pull everything from the internet and tailor its own response to me. Like whatever I ask it, cool. The consumer side application, really cool. But it may, if you're approaching an industrial automation application, you have unrealistic expectations. You have this kind of picture in your head.
Right.
And so that's part of the gap, is that we're starting here with the technology folks like yourselves with what's possible. And we're trying to drive that into the market when they're coming in with expectations up here. And it's like, it's a communication challenge.
Yeah, I saw on LinkedIn yesterday, the Chat GPT gentleman asked, what weighs more, a pound of gold or a pound of feathers? And of course it said a pound of gold.
Did it really?
So artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's a definitely crawl, kind of walk, kind of run. I mean, you've got to know what kind of problem you're trying to solve. And I think that's where A3 is. You guys do a good job at bringing a lot of people together that are from various different parts of what we're all trying to do.
We're trying to do that.
Yeah.
We're trying to be the trusted advisor for the industry, right?
Yeah.
I know in your business, you try to do something similar for your customers, but from an industry perspective, that's what we want to do is highlight applications, companies doing it in reliable ways, tactile ways that you can demonstrate and show success and be able to communicate that and say, okay, here, kind of close that gap through those efforts. So that's a major push, a major undertaking.
Is it every other year with it? Because I know you had the Vision AMR show in Boston this last year. Is that again this year as well, or is it every other year? How are you guys going to do that?
It won't be this year.
Okay.
It might be next year. We're working on potential locations, everything like that right now. So we're working on our full event calendar past Automate, and so we'll have events to announce soon.
No, I look forward to it. I really appreciate you coming down to South Central Texas and getting some brisket with us and seeing the shop. I had a good time.
Got to twist my arm too hard. I appreciate the invite. You guys are great hosts, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, and everybody at home, thank you for tuning in to In the Loop podcast. I'm Brent Parsi of Plus One Robotics. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Brent.
Stay in the loop. Powered by Plus One Robotics.